back to Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, where we take a midweek break to cover all things, even remotely, related to Linux. Maybe just a little bit of gaming, but all the other neat stuff as well. I'm Vince Stone.
I am Pedro Mateos.
And I'm Matthew Commando.
All right, lads, how about we just jump right into it?
Let's go. So, Swapnil Bhartiya, if you're a regular Google Plus user, you've seen him in the Linux group. He is always posting stuff about Linux. So, he got a chance to interview Greg Kroll-Hartman about the inner workings of Linux, the kernel itself. And he asked him a bunch of questions. Then you actually have notes on this one.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a couple of things. This is like Linux is the biggest project ever. And what does that consist of? Well, 4,000 plus developers and at least 440 different companies contributing to the Linux kernel. So that's basically over 10,800 lines of code added, 503,000 lines of code removed, and over 1,875 lines of code modified each and every single day.
Yeah, I like the fact that Apple and Microsoft can't keep up with this. And they actually said, you win, we cannot compete. And yeah, I mean, you cannot compete like from a closed source kernel to something that is massively distributed and it got thousands of contributors. Yeah, they cannot, just cannot. But then again, Apple is only supporting a small subset of devices. And Microsoft, they rely on their software vendors to provide their drivers for their rest.
To be fair, Apple's job was about Linux. So, he got a chance to interview Greg Kroll-Hartman about the inner workings of Linux, the kernel itself. And he asked him a bunch of questions. Then you actually have notes on this one.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a couple of things. This is like Linux is the biggest project ever. And what does that consist of? Well, 4,000 plus developers and at least 440 different companies contributing to the Linux kernel. So that's basically over 10,800 lines of code added, 503,000 lines of code removed, and over 1,875 lines of code modified each and every single day.
Yeah, I like the fact that Apple and Microsoft can't keep up with this. And they actually said, you win, we cannot compete. And yeah, I mean, you cannot compete like from a closed source kernel to something that is massively distributed and it got thousands of contributors. Yeah, they cannot, just cannot. But then again, Apple is only supporting a small subset of devices. And Microsoft, they rely on their software vendors to provide their drivers for their rest.
To be fair, Apple's job was already done for them the moment they started using BSD. But man, people only use Linux because of the politics of the desktop ideologies. Monster Cameron.
That's ultimately true. I mean, we do the show on Linux. But let's talk about a camera connector. For what, you might ask? The Raspberry Zero. You know that thing that you can't buy anywhere because it's completely sold out? That's right. They have a new version, Pi Z 1.3. They got a new thing here. They shoved a FPC connector from the Compute Module dev kit onto the Pi. I mean, it does require a custom 6-inch adapter cable, but if you're playing the home version, looking at the video, it allows you to connect that camera we talked about last week.
Yep. And you can only do it with the new version of the Pi Zero. You actually need, for those specific Sony cameras, you need that cable that Ben mentioned. But having the necessary bits already on the board, and they actually had to move some of the components around on the PCB to be able to implement those because the Pi Zero is really, really tiny. But having that stuff already on the board means that others will be able to create their own camera modules for the Pi Zero slightly easier.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how good is it if you can't order the Raspberry Pi Zero. I mean, it's been out of stock forever.
Well, I mean, come on, man, come on. I mean, they did say in the little blog post is that the main reason is because the Pi Zero had to compete in the factory for space with the Raspberry Pi 3. So, maybe in the future, right?
Yeah, I've never seen it available, but probably someday, hopefully. Yeah, but I imagine that there could be some cool projects with this. Add a solar panel, SIM card module, and a Ting subscription. You could
totally
have like a
sponsored.
Well, it's probably the best choice. You could have like a really small security device, like self-contained,
Or a speed camera.
yeah, or a crow detector.
But on the topics of Pi.
Strider, take this one.
Yeah. So there was an update for the Raspbian, the OS based on Debian for the Raspberry Pi. And yeah, there's a couple of stuff in there. There's a copy tool for copying Raspbian to one SD card to another. There's also a little UI for connecting Bluetooth devices. Well, not any Bluetooth device, but only mouse and keyboards and this kind of stuff. Overall, it's not huge updates. It's mostly stuff that should have been there from the beginning.
Well, I mean, a couple of things. I mean, definitely they put a Bluetooth plug-in in for the LX panel taskbar. Then again, Bluetooth support kind of limited. You still get your mouse, keyboard, audio devices. What else you really going to need? But, Pager, what do you think about this? I thought it was kind of neat. An SD card copier that'll let you do a backup of your Pi or just migrate it to a larger card.
Not having to deal with some of the imaging software that you have available for your typical desktop operating systems to do that for you? Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah. Oh, it's mostly a front end for DD. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of neat that they have this. Something in the article, though, is making me think that the other is one of those people who actually think that the apt-get command, this upgrade, is used to upgrade between releases, which is not the case at all.
To be fair, this is Debian we're talking about, not Ubuntu, and Debian Jessie is sort of a moving target, as it were, right now anyway. The moment it becomes stale or stable. So far, right now, this upgrade really sort of does the Fedora thing of keeping the distro slightly in line with what is currently current.
No, what this upgrade does, it's the exact same thing as upgrade, except it will either add or remove packages as needed. That's the only difference.
Including the kernel. Some kernel upgrades don't get installed with the regular upgrade command.
Right.
Okay, well, Skynet.
So next we got Parsey McParseface, which is the actual name of this technology released by Google. It's natural language technology, like it makes computer understand human language, mostly English language. So it will know that's in a sentence, this is the noun, this is the verb, and so on. So it seems to be pretty advanced. I will maybe try it out. I have some reasons to try it out.
I don't know, man. Parsey McParseface, I mean, it's built on Syntax.net. That's Google's neural network framework, and they do plan to open source that bit. That's going to be a bit neat. And, I think it's going to be pretty useful for your developers and your researchers, anyone interested in automatic extraction of information, translation, any other core applications of natural language understanding. One thing in the article, Slat Petrov, he's the senior staff research scientist, said Parsey McParseface, he's got to love typing that or saying that, is approaching human performance when it's applied to well-formatted text. So
this is well-formatted.
This is going to be a really good alternative to NLTK, which was the most well-known project until now, used in Python. But yeah, with a name like this, no one is going to want to use NLTK anymore. I mean, given the choice, what would you use? Parsey McParseface or the boring NLTK?
Parsey McParseface was a very clever thing, considering the whole Bodie McBoatface that happened a couple of weeks back. Yeah. But yeah, congrats on Google for having a sense of humor. And it works from what I've seen in the tests I've seen some people do. It works. You just have, right now it can only do well formatted sentences. So it will still have issues translating gibberish from 12-year-olds screaming profanities at you over Counter-Strike Global Offensive.
I can has arch.
You can totally has a cheeseburger. But hey, you know what Weekend has? Some monies and some Patreons.
Gratitude, man. 81 Patreons rocking this business, keeping us loud, live, and independent. This week, we had Renee K join in, Jordan L, Mir kicked in an update. And we got a couple of new things. I mean, if you kind of like the gamings a little bit, I mean, just for 5 cents, walk in the door. You know, you can take a look at some extra stuff. We have new Left 4 Bread 2 up. We have a little behind the scenes with what were recorded with speedrunners last week. That's fully produced. And you can catch all this business, and it's totally there. And I get a little bit of surprise for everyone who's been asking, because I finally got it up and working almost right before the show. Let's say earlier this morning. There is now an RSS feed for your podcatchers. So you'll be able to, it's on linuxgamecast.com right now. It's live. When you just add it, it's in the podcast business section. It's the last one. Add that, and when this show goes live, you will be able to yoink it without going to Patreon and downloading the MP3. But I just want to thank everyone who makes this show possible, because, you know, we really don't want to be doing a bunch of ads or anything like that.
And we're now past 80. Patreons, and that's kind of awesome. Now I actually have to start streaming more regularly.
Well, speaking of streaming, then.
Yes. Speaking of streaming, one of the lead developer of Visor with a Y. That's the app that would let you see and interact with your Android device directly from your desktop, assuming you had the Chrome browser extension installed and the ADB server running. That's all you needed. And he was doing that by using H.264. It would record the screen with minimal delay on your Android device and present it to you with some different quality options. And you could basically interact with your Android device directly from your desktop. Using your mouse, your keyboard, it would pick up on everything. It was really awesome. But the fine, and I'm being very sarcastic here, folks at MPEG LA saw Visor taking off and decided to collect some wet stinky caches. Thus, the developer had to nuke the free Chrome extension, and in order to keep it going, as it were, it turned it into a yearly subscription thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to get sick of like this kind of stuff and seeing H.264 everywhere. Why don't we get some patent-free codecs out there? I mean, there's VP9. What's wrong with VP9? Don't we see that more often?
Well, I think we definitely need more support. When I saw you say that, and I was like, VP9, I was like, whoa. Just
there's going to be VP10 soon as well.
Right. And there's everyone's still kind of like, we don't know if it's completely patent unencumbered and all that. But the biggest issue, I think, with the VP9 is any type of like mobile hardware encoding or decoding support on any device, because I was looking around for that today. It doesn't exist. And even on a desktop, on just rendering that
software,
rendering this show, right, twice the time, twice the workload. But yeah, Visor was a very neat app. Pedro, I didn't catch it. Is the project completely dead now, or?
No, it isn't completely dead. You can get the Chrome extension just the usual way. Just go to the Chrome store. But the moment you try to use it, it will say, yeah, no, They had like 1 hour free trial, and now it's gone. So if you want to keep using it, you have to pay either $1.49 a month or $7.49 a year, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, well, let's keep this Kodak trainer rolling.
Okay, so there's this distribution called Linux Mint, which was
Never heard of it.
Ubuntu.
Wait. I just got to be mean here because we're looking on this is OMG Ubuntu.co.uk, and there's a little picture. It says the Mint box ships without multimedia codecs, and all I'm thinking, the Mint box still ships.
The selling point of Mint was, it's Ubuntu with the codecs and Flash and the drivers installed. And now they don't do that anymore, at least for the codecs. Why exactly? Well, maybe also some things to do with patents, and they don't want to deal with that anymore. So it becomes basically Ubuntu.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what the Ubuntu does. Doesn't it just start up and it's like, install these?
You have a checkbox to click on at install time. It will do everything and provide drivers, Flash, codecs out of the box. You don't need to mess with everything. I mean, I don't remember the last time I had to install the package Ubuntu Restricted Extras. I don't know if this package is still out there.
It was still around in 1404. I'm not so sure about 1604.
And yeah, you can also install Cinnamon. You can install Mate in Ubuntu. Yeah. So what's the point of Mint now?
Yeah, no, Cinnamon is a Linux Mint project. They were the ones who created it, mostly as an answer to GNOME 3, because, well, everyone has issues with GNOME 3, one way or the other.
I mean, it's a definitely interesting change. I mean, Mint, I haven't checked it on the distro watch in quite some time, but I mean, it's always been up there. I don't see this as a game-breaking thing in any way, shape, form, or fashion, Strider.
No, but if you're on top of this, they have a really weird upgrade policy. They've been hacked, really nasty hack a few months ago through their WordPress sites. That was I mean, there's not much to go with Mint anymore, I guess. It was really popular a couple of years ago, but I mean, now, I mean, it's losing its interest, really.
You know what hasn't lost its interest, Strider? Vulkan.
Yeah.
And we, as someone who actually has an NVIDIA Shield tablet right here, you get to shield long and prosper with Vulkan. Shut up. Bad puns are my specialty. In any case, you can actually get proper Vulkan working with the original Shield tablet that's the one I have, and it works. I actually tried it. I downloaded the update. It did its thing. It rebooted into Android 6.0.1. And it came with the Vulkan renderer. And like, okay, so it has a Vulkan renderer. Let's go and try and find something that uses Vulkan on the Play Store. Nothing. Okay, let's poke.
You didn't install the Talos principle?
Okay, let's poke Mr. Aaron Plattner, the head developer for the Linux driver, see if he knows of anything. Oh yeah, I don't know if there's anything in the Play Store, but we built some of the Vulkan demos for the desktop for Android so we could try it. You could just download those. Oh, okay. And I did. And it works. It's the link that's in the notes right next to it. It works. It was rendering 5,000 fishes every single frame. And
how many hamsters?
It wasn't... What?
How many hamsters?
No hamsters, unfortunately. They can't breathe underwater. Oh. But yeah, it's kind of amazing. And one of the things that this update brings is that it brings the original shield back to par with the K1, which is the cheaper version they released later on. It also, if you want Vulkan on Android without, say, dropping $600 for a Galaxy S7 or an S7 Edge, the Shield tablet is your best option. You could also opt in to the Android N developer preview beta in the Nexus, whatever Nexus device you happen to have. Then you'd get Vulkan as well. And, for all that's worth, because right now there aren't a whole lot of Vulkan-enabled games / apps.
Well, I guess to wrap that up, we just need to thank NVIDIA for all the fish. All right.
Thanks for all the fish.
Let's talk about ZFS. It's a thing. Go ahead. I think Mr. Katana Beardman's not happy about this.
Yeah, Richard Stallman is going to be really angry once again about the inclusion of ZFS.
Well, it's kind of interesting how they did it, though. I mean, Debian, they decided to include the source code only rather than take Ubuntu's approach of like shipping pre-built kernel modules. And, what's ZFS? I've never heard of it. I mean, it's an implementation of OpenZFS. It's designed to work with Linux environment. It was my BFF back in the days of Solaris. ECC RAM, get that 64-bit system, you're going to love it. And it's probably the best file system. I mean, if you care anything about data integrity, that's neat. It's there. Thoughts, hints, allegations?
Yeah, so basically what it does, it compiles itself with DKMS or something?
It's an interesting little workaround, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like kind of like the VirtualBox modules or NVIDIA modules, I guess.
And I guess that's one loophole they can sort of exploit to get around the Stallman rage. All right, so Intel has finally gotten off their very comfortable, money-filled asses, as it were, and decided to figure out those last two OpenGL extensions that were holding them back from full OpenGL 4.2 support, which was the GL ARB GPU shader FB64 for OpenGL 4.0 and the GL ARB Vertex Attrib 64-bit for OpenGL 4.1, since they already had everything in the 4.2 specific stack. Finally! Took you long enough.
But yeah. But no Haswell support, so I'm not really interested.
Oh yeah, I forgot. It's Skylake only right now. It's only for Skylake.
Only for Skylake, but we're hoping. I mean, what I would like to see is Haswell and Skylake supports with OpenGL 4.3 by the time Ubuntu 16.10 gets released. That would be really neat.
So what does this ultimately mean at the end of the day? I mean, you kind of run out and go play the Talos Principle on my Skylake GPU?
Yes. Then again, you could also do it with the Vulkan renderer already.
Sweet. Hold up.
Yep. But yes, the Mesa devs were actually going back and forwards in the mailing list earlier in the week. When David Arley, I don't know how to spell that, so I'm sorry, Dave. Yeah. But yeah, he actually suggested that the free desktop guys wait and hold off on releasing Mesa 12.0 until at least one of the sets of drivers, and they were actually specifying Intel, that they would support OpenGL 4.5, because they're actually genuinely very close to full OpenGL support at this point. If this means actually putting pressure on the Intel folks to pull a summer, I'd say do it. Considering the kind of achievement that it would be to have full OpenGL compliance in the open source drivers, even if it is just for the Intel embedded GPUs, it's worth the wait.
Yeah, well, guess what? It is not being delayed.
It is actually being delayed. Not because of the OpenGL 4.5 support.
They're not waiting for OpenGL 4.5, at least.
Yeah, no, they're actually going to delay it for a week to get SIMD32 working in 12.0, which is an OpenCL thing. I have no idea what it is. If anyone does, let us know in the comments. But yeah, they are going to be delaying it at least for a week.
Okay, well, I think we need to take a moment and talk about everyone's favorite little black box of nope. That's right, Skype's back yet again.
It's the Skype update of the week.
Wow, if this is his real name, Fiora 707. Writes on Reddit, Linux just Linux, or Linux, finally got Skype for web to work on Linux. What did he do? Well, he used the agent override using Foxfire. He set the agent to Edge, restarted Firefox, web Skype, did a test call, and everything seems to work. And when I mean everything, I mean chat and I mean audio. Apparently the video will attempt to come on for a second, but then it kind of nopes, and everyone just give Microsoft a hand for just really cocking up like something like WebRTC. But then again, this is the same company that looked at Flash and went, that's completely backwards. Let's make our own version. We'll call it Silverlight.
Yeah. It's a WebRTC video under Firefox is still kind of hit or miss. If anyone would care to experiment doing this with a user agent switcher on Chrome and see if the video actually works on that, you let us know.
Yeah, and I saw in the comments that they are going to integrate this with Ghetto Skype, which we covered last week.
Yeah.
Which will bring like a sort of native look and feel to Skype Web. But if Skype is going to use WebRTC, why don't we switch everything to one of the superior alternatives like Jitsi, which you get video, you get audio, it works, and we let Skype die in its misery.
The same reason everyone goes, you can use this, this, and this, and this, and this, and that's not the problem, because guess what? Grandma's not on that. Grandma's on Skype. That's why.
Okay, so I genuinely thought that Oracle versus Google was already over when that judge said that APIs could not be copyrighted. No?
Yeah, you see, Google puts its expert on the stand to combat Oracle because they're still in this. Because originally what went down, way back in a long time ago, when was it? Like 2012, and they did the whole thing with the APIs and...
APIs cannot be copyrighted.
Right, but then the Court of Appeals, a judge was like, nope, maybe they can. So they're back again. Now what they're arguing is that the use of the 37 APIs they're using constitutes fair use. Now, I want to talk about this. We really want this to go correctly. Now, I believe it was at the end of last week, Ellison, they brought him on, and he was like, yeah, man, we really dug what Google was doing with Java, and I thought it was a great project. But, yeah, this week, not so much, man. What are your thoughts?
Strider?
They were like one of the biggest software vendors 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And now they're just a patent troll. So that means they're not really relevant anymore. They're becoming the new SEO Linux. Is that what they're becoming?
Caldera. Caldera Linux.
They are claiming copyrights over something they didn't even create. It was Sun that created Java and
true. They didn't create it, but they own it, Brad.
Yeah, they own it, but they're just trying to make some money out of something they didn't.
Well, I mean, you got to consider. I mean, Oracle is like a straight up numbers company. I mean, they're going to do the math like that scene in Fight Club, and he was like, "Well, we decided it was cheaper to pay off the lawsuits than actually fix the product." And they're like, maybe it'll be cheaper to try to take this to court and see if we can get some extra money out of that. But, when you're talking, comparing Microsoft to Oracle, you do got to remember, man, Microsoft is still using 310 patents to extort cash from Android device makers. They've settled their beef with Google and Motorola, but they're still got their tentacles in everything else. I mean, I can...
Yeah, there's one thing I want to point out in this whole rehashed thing, which is the irony of Google using the argument that those 37 APIs that they're using are under fair use. Where is the fair use, Google, when you give basically anyone that's, sitting on a ton of money, like, I don't know, maybe the MPAA, any studio based off of Hollywood, anyone in the music industry, where is the fair use when someone tries to make a YouTube video with a teeny tiny bit of copyrighted content?
That's just part of their safe harbor, man. Here's what I really wanted to happen. Was during Google I.O. today, I wanted to talk about Android, and the Android Rockstar, whatever his name was, walked up there, and he's just like, we're switching to Swift, and just drops the mic. Did you see Android ever going over to Swift, Strider?
Yeah, that could happen. I mean, there was even a question on Reddit I saw a couple of days ago if they were asking if they could have chosen Python for Android. I don't know, that would have been neat.
That would have doubled the suicide rate, but that's about Git.
Yeah, there's new paid plans on GitHub now. They did announce that you could make as many private repositories as you wanted with your paid plans on GitHub. They have new pricings as well. So last time I checked, GitHub was $30 a month for just the base plan. Now it's $7 a month, so it's quite a big price drop. So if you're considering using GitHub for your private stuff, that could be a good thing.
It's definitely reasonably priced. I mean, because even if you're looking at organizations, what are you looking 9 user a month, 25 a month for your first 5 users? Yeah, come on.
And the big thing that they're pushing out is unlimited repositories for every single user. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what was the policy before that, how limited it was.
The free people would only get one repository, period.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's really
I don't know about the paid models, but probably they weren't unlimited.
Okay. Die.
Flash.
Die. HTML font by default. Google's plan to make Chrome Flash. Click to play. Why? This is apparently a thing. And I did read the story. Here's kind of the dice. They're going to make it basically flash block everything except for the top 10 whatever flash sites. And I'm like, what are those sites? And they're not the sites you're thinking about. They're already off Flash. You know what I'm talking about. They're going to whitelist the top 10 sites. I personally cannot think of... Lads, help me out. Can you think of 10 sites that still require Flash? How about one?
Twitch.
Twitch is the only one I got.
Which we are using right now. And, YouTube uses Flash.
It still has
mainly uses HTML5 now.
Yeah, but it still has the Flash backend. I don't know for what reason. Google, seriously. Summer. Get it together.
I guess Facebook has Flash video.
Does it? I think Facebook is like all JavaScript, all HTML5 all the time.
Oh, I know it's in the list of the 10 sites that are whitelisted from Chrome.
Yeah, no.
So
I don't know, man. Strider, riddle me this. I mean, why hasn't Flash just been removed completely? I mean, this is one thing I was like, good on you, Apple. Apple got this rolling way back when on the iDevices.
Removing Flash totally, no, maybe not a good option, but yeah, HTML5 audio and video has been working great for the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. So that switch could have been made a long time ago, like maybe 3 years ago. My guess is that it has something to do with the inclusion of DRM in HTML5 video, which we'll cover in a minute. But we still sort of need Flash for, not only the audio and video, but all the games and whatnot.
Yeah, speaking of that, why don't we go ahead and get into that encrypted media extension Holy War from the EFF. Say Firefox! And really, yeah, this is another EME rant from the EFF. It's very fascinating. And listen, man, I get that EME is bad, but this article's just a little on the side of booga booga. We need competition, and by competition, this is what I got from it. There's like, no one ever, do not include this encrypted media extension into the standard. I'm like, I completely get that. You could have written one sentence and been like, thumbs up. Completely agree. Strider?
So you have a tough choice here. It's either we keep our open standards like we had before, or we get Netflix on Firefox. So it's kind of a tough choice to make because,
you say it's a threat to all open source browsers. All right, Microsoft's probably already munching on this glue stick. They're like, it's great edge.
Yeah, it's not a problem for Chrome, Edge, all the proprietary browsers. I mean, they already put that stuff in their browsers, but for Chromium, for all the all the WebKit-based browsers, it's basically the same thing. I mean, they're open source. They don't want to put some DRM, some closed source stuff in it. So maybe if that ever happens, I bet that the Debian project will dig out the Iceweasel project and revive its dead corpse.
And the thing here is the W3C, which is the World Wide Web. What do they call it? What does it stand for? They actually have it here. I don't remember. Well, the W3C, they have basically allowed, or they're pondering whether or not to allow the EME to be integrated into the web standard. And the moment that it does, everything, and I do mean everything that is displaying any kind of media in any kind of website, YouTube, Twitch, Amazon, Netflix already does it, but every single website will start using the DRM module. And that's bad.
Well, I mean, it is bad. I mean, if you definitely look at how they phrase this here is, it says that removing a digital lock that controls access to copyrighted work without permission is an offense, even if the person removing the lock has the right to the contents it restricts. It can be sued, even if the user does nothing illegal. See, this is just throwing wrenches at a problem that doesn't need fixing because there's the FFmpeg loophole. Or the analog loophole. I mean, if I can see it, I can record it, and no amount of encryption. But Strider, you had a very common sense idea of how come what is not a thing.
If we're going to have some proprietary DRM in our browsers, then we might as well have this in the form of plugins, like Flash now, because that's the main use of Flash in 2016 is to act as a DRM for video. That's the biggest use. So we would replace Flash with another plugin that would use HTML5 video. That, I mean, wouldn't be good, but it wouldn't be as bad as having closed source code in Firefox.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a good idea. So, Pedro, what do we got out? Do we get any feedback this week? I don't think we got
we didn't actually get feedback.
Okay.
But you apparently were busy with some of the backends on Linux Gamecast. If you hit the contact button and you go to fill out the form, there is now an extra field right at the top that you can pick. Yeah. So if you want to send us some hate mail or some feedback, as the case may be. Yeah, the usual things still apply. If you want us to feature your game on Linux Gamecast Weekly, you still have to send us the prototype, the playable demo, something that we can play on Linux. Because if you don't, we won't talk about it. And that's, we'll probably make fun of you at that point. If you want to get in touch with us and send us some feedback over to Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, you can do that now too. You don't need to put the brackets thing in the subject saying it's for LWDW. You can just pick that from the box.
Yeah, and while you're there, you might as well go ahead and subscribe because the audio RSS feed is live. Just put that
it's
into
there.
Pod thingy, catcher. Or Or maybe you're watching this on YouTube. Leave us a comment, give us a thumbs up, give us a thumb sideways. I mean, let us know what you think and how we are doing with this business. Gentlemen, it has been fun, but I think we're going to have to throw it to maybe an interview.
Why, hello there. We have a very, very special guest with us this week, Mr. Martin Wimpress himself from the Ubuntu Mate project. He previously contributed to several other Linux distributions from, you were an AUR maintainer, right? For a while?
I was an Arch Linux TU for a while.
Right, that's it. And also you also did some packaging for Debian, Ubuntu itself, and several other things.
GSOC mentor and community management for Mate.
Yes.
Now, I guess we have to start off with, do you hate it when people call it Mate, or is it Mate?
I don't care what people call it. I try to sort of educate people as to the origins of the name.
You see, you just immediately sucked all my fun. I owe you really call it Mate, so I can call it Mate the entire.
No, see, when I read it, the voice in my head says Mate, but I have to really concentrate when I'm saying it to say Mate.
Okay, so what is it? You never heard of it? It's Desktop Manager. Now, I'm going to ask you how it started, and I've always taken it as, I remember using the GNOME 2 back when I think the first Ubuntu I installed, LTS, and it wasn't poo brown, but it was kind of like the purple and orange back then, and it had GNOME 2, which was like very logically laid out, had the launcher at the bottom, had the window switching at the top. Then they moved away from that to GNOME 3, and did someone somewhere just flip a table and say you're not having any of that? And this is how this came about?
Yeah, so, there was a bit of a schism, wasn't there? When the whole Unity and GNOME 3 thing happened, there was a lot of people that enjoyed their classic desktop environment and they wanted to maintain it. One such person was a guy called Perberos from Argentina, and he forked all of GNOME 2. Like absolutely everything imaginable, all the libraries, the whole skaboodle. And because he's from Argentina and Spanish is his language, in order to avoid namespace conflicts, everything was renamed in the process. So that's why it's Mate, not GNOME, and why all of the utilities, Get became Pluma, and Evince became Atril, and so on and so on and so on. If you speak Spanish, all of those names make sense.
All right. So do you guys at the Ubuntu Mate team, do you also, I'm going to keep calling it Mate because that's just what sounds right in my head. Do you guys also maintain Mate, the desktop environment itself too, or you just integrate it to the Ubuntu core?
So Mate Desktop is a cross-distribution effort. So there are people involved from Fedora, from Slackware, from Arch, from Debian, from Ubuntu, and Void Linux, and a whole, swathe of other Linux distributions, some of which are very niche. So Mate doesn't have a distribution as such, but we've got a number of core contributors, about half a dozen, that are interested in sort of some of the major distributions. So it gets a lot of input from the Fedora maintainers and the Debian maintainers and myself and Slackware and Linux. So the desktop itself doesn't have a distro focus, but then people like me, we do have a distro focus.
All right, awesome. So Ubuntu Mate itself, how hard was it to get it recognized as an official Ubuntu flavor?
What, in terms of getting it into the official canonical build and all of that
Precisely,
stuff?
Getting all the recognition that comes with it.
Not that difficult, actually. It was harder to actually do the technical work than it was to email the right people and make the requests and to have those requests approved. So that process we sent emails out in June of 2014, and by July of 2014, we had agreement across the board that we could do it. It then took us another 8 months to actually, do it, to technically do it. So,
all right. So you mentioned some of the technical aspects. What did those entail?
The very first versions of Ubuntu Mate were all built unofficially, so I had to create my own build environment to make the ISO images and to, figure out EFI, which I didn't have any EFI machines at the time, and all of that stuff. So it was basically, a lot of the effort was really making ISOs that worked on people's machines. And doing that work was a massive waste of time, but also made the transition into the official Ubuntu build infrastructure really straightforward. But a lot of it was really putting something out there and having people say, oh, Control-Alt-T doesn't open the terminal. All of those little paper cut issues people were reporting. And the real thing that happened in that 1410 cycle, our sort of unofficial cycle, was people contributing artwork and actually making it look half decent. And, well, not half decent, actually, some of what was contributed made it look very nice indeed. So that was really what went on in those sort of first 6-8 months, was making it work, making it look half decent, and making it boot off ISOs on hardware I didn't have access to.
All right. So like the long-term releases for Ubuntu are the staple of the Ubuntu paradigm, as it were. You've just released your first LTS with 1604. How did it go? Did you guys have any issues, any major comeuppances?
Yes and no. So we've put an awful lot. So everything we did from 1410 onwards was building up to 1604. That was the goal. So every step of the way, that is what we had our sights on. And we've done everything we could to make 1604 as good an Ubuntu Mate experience as we could. But because you can't encourage everyone to come on and test these things, once 1604 was released, everyone's on it. Everyone wants to use it. And now we're starting to see some of the teething troubles, and they're generally hardware related. So AMD support, we know what's been going on there with Ubuntu, and the fact that AMD just don't support modern Linux distributions anymore. So, there's some fallout there with AMD users. There's some fallout with Skylake support, which is sketchy at the moment in the kernel that's in 1604. It's improved in the 4.6 kernel. Certainly on my testing, I've now got a machine that runs that stuff. So it's mostly that sort of hardware stuff. But in general, it's gone really very well. It could have gone a bit better if, there'd been more people testing it with a wider variety of hardware. Most of the Ubuntu Mate users have got older equipment, because Mate's sort of, in that wheelhouse for making the most of older equipment. There are a number of people that have got really decent stuff, and they just want to reserve as much of their system as possible to run their applications rather than the desktop, hogging it all. But yeah, with a wider test base, it would have been better. And for 1604.1, I think we'll iron out all those kinks, definitely.
Awesome. So for me, just this one last question, then I know Matthew will have a few for you. Assuming you mentioned that you only have like a half a dozen to a dozen people contributing to Mate currently. If assuming people wanted to contribute, how can they go about it?
Okay. So mate-desktop.org or mate-desktop.org is where you can find out everything about the Mate desktop project. And from there, you can find links to the community and how to contribute. Everything we do is on GitHub and in IRC. All of the links to the GitHub repositories are there. One of the GitHub repositories is called Mate-University, which gives you some tuition on how to write applications, not so much applications, but things like the applets and the extensions and the plugins for the Mate desktop. So if you want to write something, then those can tell you how to do that. But if you dash into #mate-dev on Freenode, That's where all of the Mate developers hang out. We're a friendly bunch. So if you want to get involved, come and say hello, introduce yourself. We have lots of outstanding stuff we can point people at, definitely.
All right, Matthew.
Okay, yeah. So my first question, actually, I got the answer while trying out Mate or Mate in a VM this morning. I wanted to know how well Compiz was supported on Mate, and I found out that it was pretty much supported out of the box. I didn't have to install anything, so that's really good. I'm one of the few people that like Compiz. So I have another kind of related question so there's a new version of Compiz released, which is called Compiz Reloaded. Is that supported as well?
Oh, right. Where do I start? If I just wind back a bit, during the Ubuntu Mate 15.04 cycle, I did the work to closely integrate Compiz with the Mate desktop within Ubuntu Mate for Compiz 0.9. So I did that work, and it wasn't all that complicated because I'm a simple fellow, and it was something I could do. I am now sort of kind of involved in the Compiz Reloaded team, mostly because two of the core Mate developers are in the Compiz Reloaded team, and I'm sort of keeping tabs on it. In fact, I can see the IRCs ticking by right now as we record this. Some of the Compiz integration in Ubuntu Mate 16.04 is much deeper than it was previously, and that's because the Compiz Reloaded guys made a number of improvements that I've helped backport or upport, well, I'm not quite sure what the terminology is, into Compiz 0.9. So at the moment, Ubuntu uses Compiz 0.9. Ubuntu Mate will continue to use Compiz 0.9. I've no idea what the long-term future for Compiz 0.9 is within Ubuntu and Canonical. I certainly can't support that by myself. And Compiz Reloaded is getting a lot of development attention right now. And if I need another Compiz in the future, then that could be it. And we'll just have to see what happens.
That would be really cool, yes. So just earlier, a couple hours ago, I had a notification on the Lutris channel, which is the project I maintain. And the Lutris just got added to Mate's software boutique. So this is really awesome. Rob Loach, so this is the guy who sent the pull requests to integrate this into the project. He's really thankful for the pull request integration. I was amazed to see that Lutris was installable out of the box. I didn't have anything to add, any repository to add. So this is really great. So, which brings up another question. I see lots of software in the software boutique in Mate, which is not available in Ubuntu. So I see Atom, I see OBS, I see Vivaldi. So how do you bring those into the OS? Do you use PPAs or external repositories?
Yeah. So the way we do that is the software boutique is a small curated collection of best-in-class desktop Linux applications that also integrate well with the Mate desktop. So those are sort of the criteria for how it gets added. And it'll absolutely certainly get added if I use it, either at work or at home. That's kind of it. So we've all probably got scripts of stuff that after we've installed our distribution, go off and put all of the other stuff on our system that we want. And the software boutique is like an evolution of those scripts that I used to maintain for myself and for my family. So this is where it came from. It's sort of if my father-in-law wants to get his stuff, it's all in the software boutique now. He doesn't have to phone me up. He doesn't have to wait for me to visit at Christmas or Easter or whatever. He can just get on and do it. But in order to do that, not everything that you want to install, that people expect to be able to install, things like Skype, things like Google Chrome, things like Steam, people expect to have that on their computers, but those things are not in the repositories necessarily. So behind the scenes, we hook into either the PPAs or the official repositories of those projects and add those and then subscribe to those repositories in order to install and then keep those bits of software up to date. So in order for those bits of software to be in the boutique, there has to be an apt repository or a PPA behind it. It's never there is a random deb somewhere, and it's also never a random source. It's always from the upstream developer or the upstream project or the upstream company.
Yeah. Yeah, it's never a .run or .sh that you add.
Yeah.
Okay, this is really cool. I mean, there was like all the basic stuff that was installed by default, all the software I like. There was Synapse that I like a lot, Planck, there was Bitgin, and tons of stuff installed by default, Compass as well. And everything else was available in just one click from the software boutique. So this, compared to every other distro out there, this makes a lot more sense than Ubuntu, where you have to manage PPAs and do all that nonsense. So that's really, really, really cool. And I like that a lot.
I guess we just have the one final question now.
What's your always favorite? That final question that has been answered by Scott Michaud from PC Per, Ryan C. Gordon, the Linux gaming industry, and now Martin Wimpress. What is your preferred method for making a grilled cheese sandwich?
Definitely a toasted sandwich maker. So butter the bread on the outside, put the cheese in the middle, and then toast it butter side out.
No mayonnaise.
No mayonnaise.
No mayonnaise, no hot sauce, nothing? Really?
No, just... it's a grilled cheese sandwich. What else do you need?
That's the correct answer.
Cheese.
Hey, man, seriously, thanks for stopping by, having a chat with us. Where can people find you online?
You're welcome. You can find me at ubuntu-mate.org or ubuntu-mate.org, and from there you can find me via other means, all the social networks and stuff.
All right. Thanks again.